Agni. Agniba.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. Staying engaged over here.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm just at home.
Where?
California, Fremont, California.
Fremont, California. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, Calvin was on for a minute. Well, should I provide entertainment while everyone's joining?
I think we can get
We could
started,
get
Mark.
started. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Alrighty. Well, this is the usual welcoming spiel. So thank you to everyone who joined Youth Jam today. We're so glad that you joined us. We'll get started by doing our usual prayer. So how this works is that we'll have one devotee nominate someone else to do the prayer, and then we can have other devotees second that nomination. So would anyone like to nominate someone else to do the prayer today? Raj has nominated Kapil, and I second that nomination, as is Braja Supavana. So, Kapil, the stage is yours. I will be putting the prayer format in the chat, along with some other links that are probably going to be useful to everyone else. So, you're free to check those out whenever you have the chance.
Hare Krishna. My dear Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar, Shri Shri Kishore Kishori, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, if you so desire, please enable us, please give me strength so that whatever we discuss today in this youth jam, every Shastra topic, every Bhagavatam topic, we are able to imbibe it, implement in our life so that we can serve you in best of our abilities. We can serve our gurus in the best of our abilities. Thank you for considering my request. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful prayer. So, I believe the next order of the plan is to do our chat. Obviously, we can't go a day without doing our chat. So, we'll be doing chapter 9. Braja Supavana, over to you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Would you like to read the Chad Maharaj, or should we do the rotation?
We could do the rotation and I'll start. How many verses each?
I think it's around 34, so we could maybe do 10 and then have someone do the last few.
Okay. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Idam tu te goyatamam prabhaksham yanasuyave Jnanam vijnana sahitam yajkyatva mokshase shubhat Rajavidya rajakuyam pavitram idam uttamam pratyakshavagamam dharmyam susukham karutum avyayam Ashadadhana purusha dharmasyasya parantapa aprapya mam niratante mrityu sangsara vartmani maya tatamidang sarvam jagadavyaktamurtina matsthani sarvabhutani nachaham teshvavastita nachamatsthani bhutani pashyame yogamaishvaram bhutabrinnaja bhutasto mama ma bhuta bhavanaha Yathakashastato nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tata sarvani bhutani matstani tyupadaraya sarvabhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshayi punastani kalpadau visrajamyaham prakritin swam avashtabhya visrajami punah punah bhutagramam imam kritsnam avasham prakritirvashad nachamam tani karmani nibadnanti dhananjaya udasina vadasinam asaktam teshu karmasu mayadhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagadvi parivartate.
Haridas, you can go ahead and do 10.
Avajananti Mamudha Manushim Tanumashritam Param Bhavam Ajananto Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram Moghasha Moghakarmano Moghajnana Vichetasah Rakshasim Asurim Chaiva Prakritim Mohinim Shrita Mahatmanastu Mam Partha Daivim Prakritimashita Bhajantyananya Manaso Jnatva Bhutadimavvyayam Satatam Kirtayanto Mam Yatantascha Kritavrata Namasyantascha Mam Bhaktya Nityayukta Upasate Jnanayajnena Chapyenye Yajanto Mam Upasate Ekattvena Pritakttvena Bahuda Vishwatomukam Aham Kratur Aham Yajna Swadhaham Aham Aushadam Mantro Aham Evajyam Aham Agnir Aham Hutam Pitaham Asya Jagato Mata Data Pitamaha Vedyam Pavitram Omkara Riksama Yajur Evacha Gatir Bharata Prabhu Shakshi Nivasa Sharanam Suhrit Prabhava Pralayastanam Nidanam Bijamavyayam Tapamyaham Aham Varsham Nigrhnamyasrijami cha Amritim Chaivam Nityuscha Sadasacchahamarjuna Traividyamam Somapa Putapapa Yagnir Ishtva Swargatim Prartayante Te Punyam Asadya Surendra Lokam Ashnanti Divyam Divideva Bhogan.
एतां भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालं क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोकं विशन्ति एवं त्रयी धर्ममनुप्रपन्ना गतागतं कामकामलभन्ते अनयाश्चिन्तयन्त्यो मां ये जना पर्युपासते तेषां नित्याभियुक्तानां योगक्षेमं वहाम्यहम् येऽप्यन्यदेवता भक्ता यजन्ते श्रद्धयान्विता तेऽपि मामेव कौन्तेय यजन्त्यविधिपूर्वकम् अहं हि सर्वयज्ञानां भोक्ता च प्रभुरेव च न तु माम् अभिजानन्ति वेनातश्च्यवन्ति ते यान्ति देवव्रता देवान् पितॄन् यान्ति पितृव्रता भूतानि यान्ति भूतेज्या यान्ति मद्यज्ञाजिनोऽपि माम् पत्रं पुष्पं फलं तोयं यो मे भक्त्या प्रयच्छति तदहं भक्त्युपहृतम् अश्नामि प्रयतात्मनः यत्करोषि यद् अश्नासि यज्जुहोषि ददासि यत् तपस्यसि कौन्तेय तत् कुरुष्व मदर्पणम् शुभाशुभफलैरेवं मोक्ष्यसे कर्मबन्धनैः सन्न्यासयोगयुक्तात्मा विमुक्तो मामुपैष्यसि समोऽहं सर्वभूतेषु न मे द्वेष्योऽस्ति न प्रियः ये भजन्ति तु मां भक्त्या मयि तेषु चाप्यहम् अपि चेत् सुदुराचारो भजते मामनन्यभाक् साधुरेव समर्थव्यः सम्यग् व्यवसितो हि सः
क्षिप्रं भवति धर्मात्मा शाश्वत शान्तिं निगच्छति कौन्तेय प्रतिजानीहि नामे भक्तः प्रणश्यति मामी पार्थव्यपाश्रित्य येऽपिषु पापयोनयः श्रियो वैश्यस्तथा शूद्रस्तेऽपि यान्ति परां गतिम् किं पुनर्ब्रह्मणः पुण्यः भक्तराजर्षयस्तथा अनित्यम् असुखं लोकम् इमं प्राप्य भजस्व माम् मन्मना भव मद्भक्तो मद्याजी मम नमस्कुरु मम वैश्यसि युक्तैवम् आत्मनं मत्परायणः
Om Tat Sariti Srimad Bhagavad Gita Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Raja Vidya Raja Kuya Yoga Navamodhyayaha Hari Om.
Now we'll be reading the translations, and so please raise your hands, and we'll be reading, let's do 5 each. Marge, you can get us started.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion, it is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Those who are not faithful in this devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of enemies. Therefore, they return to the path of birth and death in this material world. By me and my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I'm everywhere, I'm not a part of this cosmic manifestation, for myself is the very source of creation.
Rian.
Understand that the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky. All created beings rest in me. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again, and under my will, it is annihilated at the end. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all of these material activities, seated as through neutral. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings under its rule. This manifestation has created and annihilated again and again.
Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the supreme lord of all that be. Those who are thus bewildered are attracted by demoniac and atheistic views. In that deluded condition, their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge are all defeated. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me. These great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. Others who engage in sacrifice by the cultivation of knowledge worship the Supreme Lord as the one without a second, as diverse in many and in the universal form.
But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajurvedas. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. O Arjuna, I give heat, and I withhold and send forth the rain. I am immortality, and am also death personified. Both spirit and matter are in me. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. Purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious, heavenly planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights.
When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure, and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me.
If one offers me with love and devotion, a leaf, a flower, a fruit, a water, I will accept. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. In this way, you will be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me and this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. I envy no one, nor am partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion as a friend is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is not he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination.
He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be of lower birth, women, Vaishyas, merchants, and Shudras, workers, can attain the supreme destination. How much more this is so of the righteous Brahmanas, the devotees, and the saintly kings. Therefore, having come to this temporary miserable world, engage in loving service unto me. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. Become my devotee, offer obeisances to me, and worship me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me.
Hare Krishna. So thank you to everyone who read the translations and participated in reading the Sanskrit verses as well. So from here on out, we only have a couple of things planned, one of which is Srila Prabhupada's Sulamita reading, and then we'll have a general discussion on that and some reflections. So Maharaj, if you'd like to do anything else in between that plan, or it's kind of up to you what you'd like to do.
May we read one purport from the chapter 9 verses that we just read? Bhakti Nitai, which verse would you like to hear the purport of?
24th March.
24th it is. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures, but actually all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying yajna, or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashrama Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. And now, anything that you heard from the purport to which you can point to, which would lead you to point to a corresponding verse from any Shastra, please do so. Tunga Vidya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking the last line reminds me of the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Kamo Sarva Kamava, Moksha Kamo Dharati, Divena Bhakti Yogena Yajita Purusham Param, which states that even if you have no desires, every single desire that you could possibly imagine, or the desire for liberation, one should engage in bhakti and approach the Supreme Lord.
Okay, your turn, Chaitanya. Nitai Nam.
Hare Krishna. The line in the purport that says, less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit, points directly to, I think, the verse in the 7th chapter, Kamais Taistir Hitagyana Prapadyanten Nyadevata. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires, they worship the demigods according to these regulations of worship, according to their own natures and desires. So I was thinking of that verse.
Scoreboard's lighting up here. Kapil.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, when you read the purport and the translation as well, the first part of the translation reminded me of the verse 529 from Bhagavad Gita. Bhoktaram yagyatapasam sarvalokam aishwaram surdam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shantim richati. Yes, Maharaj. I found these verses to be similar, and um, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says that we all are anxious in this material world. We all are trying to find peace, but we cannot find peace because there is no peace in the material world. And when we engage everything in the service of Krishna, that's when, he shows his mercy, and that's when he gives us that peace. And I was also thinking about Ambrish Maharaj from Bhagavatam, where he's engaging everything he has in the service of the Lord, and he's internally very happy.
Well done. Let's do two more. Keshav, give us something.
Um, that a verse, I don't know the text, but the translation says, O Arjuna, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes.
And which one are you relating it to in this context?
That I was just thinking that like people just don't understand that Krishna is the enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. And like people are taught to think that God is someone to be feared from. But and then like even if we tell somebody, oh, he's the enjoyer and master, they're like scared, oh, he's the master. If we don't worship him, he will hurt us. So that's why people worship God. And also so that he can satisfy their senses. But Krishna says that he's the enjoyer and that also he's not like a master. He takes care of the devotee and he doesn't want to hurt them.
Thanks, Keshav. Oops. Scorekeeper's a little sloppy today. Akshar Nitai is going to get on the board now.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was looking at the first line and actually the kind of the whole theme, similar to what Chaitanya Nitai Namprabhu pointed out. There's a verse in Bhagavatam where it describes that what's described in the Vedic literatures, prescribed in the Vedic literatures for people to follow. This Parokshavad Vedoyam Balanam Manushasanam. It's like medicine for kids, so that at least they'll take to this. Because they're not actually following the real thing. And so similar sort of idea is here is that at least, they're worshipping the demigods and they're going for something. And even if they're approaching Krishna, at least they're worshipping, even if they're worshipping for material benefit, at least they're worshipping him. So I was kind of thinking of that verse. I didn't get a clear picture, but yeah.
I see an opportunity here. Let's scroll down a little bit. Says, oops. Oh, you went to another one. Childish and foolish people are attached to materialistic fruitive activities, although the actual goal of life is to become free from such activities. Therefore, the Vedic injunctions indirectly lead one to the path of ultimate liberation by first prescribing fruit of religious activities, just as a father promises his child candy so that the child will take his medicine. You can move your score up.
I thought the last line was kind of funny to think about.
It is funny. Makes me smile when I hear it. Here it says, let's see, I am the only species. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. It reminded me of Yene Ravindaksha Vimuktamaninas Toyasta Bhavada Bashuddha Buddhaya Aruya Krishna Paramparam Tata Patantyato Nadrita Yushmaran Graya. Someone may say that aside from devotees who always seek shelter at the Lord's lotus feet, there are those who are not devotees who have accepted different processes for attaining liberation. What happens to them? In answer to this question, Lord Brahma and the other demigods say, O lotus-eyed Lord, although non-devotees who accept severe austerities and penances to achieve the highest position may think themselves liberated, their intelligence is impure. They fall down from their position of imagined superiority because they have no regard for your lotus feet. Kirtaniya Gora is all ready. He's loaded up. Go for it.
I was I think it was in the line, it said like less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. So I think it was in the 7th chapter. It goes like antavatu phalam tesham, and it talks about how people who don't see Krishna as the Supreme Lord, they're they ask for things, and whatever they ask for are temporary, and what they get is also limited. It says men of small intelligence worship demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. Those who worship the demigods go to the planets of the demigods, but my devotees ultimately reach my supreme planet. And this talks about how, like, what if you ask for the demigods, it's always temporary, but when you ask to Krishna, it's forever. And I think Hari Prasad Prabhu, when he came here, he was also talking about it, and he was saying like you can ask for Krishna instead of asking him for small things again and again, because that's like it's like having, I think he said, like Elon Musk in your pocket instead of always asking him for a few dollars each time.
Way to go, Kirtani Agora. Like what in your pocket?
Elon Musk in your pocket instead of asking him each time for a few dollars.
I see. Well, I hope you still have something left. Okay, Arav.
Hare Krishna. I think there's one verse from Chaitanya Charitamrit. Must be 19.150 or 149. I think it's 149. It says, because a devotee of Lord Krishna is desireless, he is peaceful. Fruit of workers desire material enjoyment. Jnanis desire liberation, and yogis desire material opulence. Therefore, they are all lusty and cannot be peaceful.
Can you chant the
And
verse?
Oh, yes. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataiva Shanta Bhakti Mukti Siddhi Kame Sakali Ashanta.
And go ahead, I interrupted you. You're about to say something more.
Oh, yes. This relates to the verse because a devotee can be desireless when they realize that Krishna is the enjoyer. When they see that Krishna is the enjoyer, they say that we have nothing to enjoy if Krishna enjoys. If Krishna enjoys, everybody enjoys. So that's why the devotees are desireless. And then the fruit of workers who don't know Krishna, they want to enjoy themselves. And then the jnanis want to be liberated. And then the yogis want the mystic powers and material respect and opulence.
Well done, Arav. Who knows a verse that verifies that when one worships Krishna, then one also becomes edified. The worshiper becomes edified by worshiping Krishna. I'll give you a hint. It's Bhakta Haridas is ready to get on the board.
Right, I was thinking Dhruva Maharaj when he sees Vishnu for the first time, then he says that I was searching for broken pieces of glass, but then I found the diamond instead.
That's pretty good. Can you sing the Sanskrit to it?
I think it's something like Kashan Vichinvan Abhidivya Ratnam Swamin Kritastos me Varam Nayakshan.
Wow. You are loaded up. Way to go, Bhakta Haridas. Fantastic. Excelente. I was thinking of something from Prahlad Maharaj. Now that I said that, does anybody know what verse I'm thinking of in his prayers? Naivatmana prabharayam nijalabhapurno manam janada vidusakaruno vranite yad yashano bhagavati bhakamam tachchatmane pratimukasya yatha mukashri. The Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always fully satisfied in himself. Therefore, when something is offered to him, the offering by the Lord's mercy is for the benefit of the devotee, for the Lord does not need service from anyone. To give an example, if one's face is decorated, the reflection of one's face in a mirror is also seen to be decorated. Any other thoughts in general about the 9th chapter that we chanted, or the experience of chanting the whole chapter? What are your thoughts? Manya, you just came.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining. Yeah, we just chanted the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and we're having some discussion. Kirtani Agora.
I think it's like it has a lot of important verses, like Bhattan Pushpam and like many of the main verses in the Bhagavad Gita are in this chapter because
It is. You're so correct on that. So many important verses, right? Who can think of two more highly used verses from 9th chapter? Rajras.
One more is Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Mamananyavak Sadhareva Samantavya Samyak Vyavasuto Hisa. That's also one of the more famous one where he talks about how a devotee remains to be a devotee because they have an inclination towards Krishna, even if they may have other faults.
Fantastic. Chaitanya Nitai Namaneche Namrahate Sharamulyanam Dite Chere.
I was thinking of the Manmana Bhavamat Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mamai Vaishyas Yuktaivam Atmanam Madparayana. That's comes up twice in the Bhagavad Gita, once in the middle and then once toward the end in the 18th chapter. So clearly that means it must be very important, at least.
Yeah, say something about why it's important from your perspective.
Krishna says in the 9th chapter, at least, he says, engage your mind in always thinking of me and become my devotee. And the ultimate goal, the result of that is that surely you'll come to me after practicing that in your life, devotional service and everything in, devotion of me.
Thank you very much, Chaitanya Nityanam. Manya.
Hey Krishna, I was thinking of a verse that I really like from the 9th chapter that's also quoted. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Parivasate Desham Nitya Abhiyuktanam Yogakshemam. Yogakshema Bahamyam. And this is where Krishna says that I carry what you lack, and I preserve what you have. And this is a really reassuring verse for me. It's that, we can kind of meet Krishna where we are, and he completes the path wherever we meet him.
Yeah, I quoted that one this morning because Ananyas Chintayantamam, if you have no other object of meditation, and that's your main business, then Krishna says, I'll take care of you directly, personally. Wow. Really nice quoting, everybody. I'm impressed. Fantastic. You could go on like that for hours, right? Finding one that connects to the next. It's a nice exercise. You just pull out one book after another. And then if we had some time, what we could do is every time we pull out a new verse, then we'll read the whole purport. And then we'll find the verse that goes from that to the next one. And you just go through and follow a thread all the way through various shastras. We'll have a 24-hour version of YouCham, and we can do that. Well, how about now if we try reading a little Lilamrita? Because it's so nectarian, huh? How many are we doing? How many paragraphs?
Hare Krishna. We can do 3 paragraphs. If they're smaller, we can do 4, but
Okay.
3.
Does it start at the top?
Yeah. You can start.
Bhakti Sharanga Goswami wrote that he wanted to print only 500 copies of Sajjana Toshini for the September issue, but Abai wanted to print more. After making an agreement with the printer that the charges would be the same for 1,000 copies as for 500, he wrote Bhakti Sharanga Goswami, informing him of the good news. Abai also told him that he had recently secured a donation of printing paper and that he had arranged for a 1/4 reduction in the postal charges. So why, for the matter of saving some papers, we shall not print the full number? In my opinion, we should print more than 1,000 copies every month and distribute them in large scale. But Bhakti Sharanga replied through a brief postcard that they should print no more than 500. Abai continued his attempts to improve Sajjana Toshini. For him, it was not a perfunctory duty, but absorbing preaching. In a letter to Bhakti Sharanga Goswami, he expressed anxiety over waiting for him to send articles for the next issue. Funds were scarce, so scarce that Abai had no decent dhoti, and yet he continued to envision a glorious future for Sajjana Toshini.
You can go. Very English.
I wish to see this paper adjust to the standard of Illustrated Weekly, with numerous pictures in order to make it a very popular literature. And for this, I wish to move myself to secure subscribers as well as advertisers. I wish to visit good businessmen, insurance companies, and government officers in this connection, but I have no proper dress at all. I want 2 sets of good dresses in order to take up this responsibility, and I shall be glad to have your decision on this matter. It is my heart's desire that this paper is improved to the highest elevation. Abai also requested that Bhakti Sharanga Goswami helped him publish his Hindi Chaitamrita. Some Bengali gentlemen were demanding the book and had assured Abai that they would pay 25 rupees per volume. Abai requested a loan of 600 rupees under any arrangement suitable to the Bhakti Sharanga Goswami for publishing the first part of this work. If this part is sold out, Abai wrote, the other parts will automatically come out. But just as life in the Gaudiya Shanga and work on the Sajana Toshani under Bhakti Sharanga Goswami's hand produced strain for Abai's ambition for Abai's ambitions for increasing circulation and his strong and editorial opinions also created strain for Bhaktisharanga Goswami to respond in response to Abhai's letter. Bhaktisharanga Goswami's secretary Ramananda wrote a letter full of flowery praises of Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, but with the intention of dismissing him from his position with the Gaudiya Sangha.
With innumerable humble obeisances at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, Srimad Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, we received your letter written to Sri Guru Maharaja on the date of October 5th, 1955. Your project is very lofty, and you are a well-wisher of our society. We got to know that also, since the last 2 months, in spite of so many difficulties, the difficulties of prasadam and misunderstanding of the devotees there, and in spite of various other difficulties, the kind of enthusiasm that you have shown that is possible only for an elevated Vaishnava like yourself. You are a favorite Vaishnava of Srila Prabhupada and a friend of all the special associates of Srila Prabhupada. Most of the devotees in Gaudiya Sangha ashrama in Delhi are new and less respectful. They cannot give proper respect to an elevated personality like yourself, especially the lofty speculations that you have. Our society at the present circumstances has little ideas. We hope with all your qualities, very soon you will become settled independently and fulfilling the desires of Srila Prabhupada and start preaching very widely.
Thank you. Nitai.
We are suspecting that it won't be for enable and respectable Vaishnava like yourself to stay there long adjusting with the illiterate and less educated devotees of the Gaudiya Sangha in Delhi. Moreover, you are the head of the editorial board of Srimad Keshava Maharaj's Vedanta Samitis, Gaudiya Patrika and Bhagavata Patrika. So if you spend much time in our ashrama, then he might become annoyed. With many devotees, he's setting out to circumambulate the land of Praja, and we are sure that he will need your assistance in this parikrama. So you consider all the pros and cons, and if you do not neglect the duty as a leader of his organization, we will be pleased. Some articles have been sent for the October issue. Sarjana Toshini, and some more might be sent. We will be very much obliged if you would instruct Nanda Prabhu to publish the October issue. We hope that Shri Guru Maharaj will be able to personally publish the November and December issue. We wish to transfer it to Calcutta from the month of January. Shri Guru Maharaj has become old, and most of the time he has to depend on us. We are happy to know that you are trying very hard to publish the Chaitanya Charitamrita in Hindi, but at present circumstances, it won't be possible for us to invest 600 rupees from our fund in order to print that. Because Sri Guru Maharaj has taken up many projects in different directions now, and he has to spend a lot of money, so he can take responsibility of printing that book. Keshavananda Prabhu wrote that your clothes are getting torn, so buy a pair of clothes from the fund of the temple, and if the devotees commit offenses at your lotus feet due to their short sightedness, please forgive them. Signed, the servant of the Vaishnava, Sri Ramananda Das. If it was not the fact that Abhay was being called for leadership in Keshava Maharaj's parikrama, although it was a good excuse for Ramananda, suggesting that Abhay leave the Gaudiya Sangha. So after living as a dutiful member in the ashramas of Keshava Maharaj and Bhakti Saranga Maharaj, Abhay was again on his own.
Without income or institutional shelter, Abhay began staying in various homes in Delhi, living from week to week wherever he received an invitation. In terms of food, clothing, and shelter, these were the most difficult times he had ever gone through. Since his childhood, there had always been plenty of food and good clothes, and no question of where he would live. He had been the pet child of his father, and he had received special guidance and affection from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but now Abhay sometimes felt alone. Homeless, he moved around Delhi from one temporary residence to another, a Vishnu temple, a room at the Kapoor College of Commerce. But he was seeking donors, preaching from Bhagavad Gita, writing. His goal wasn't to find a permanent residence, but to print his transcendental literature and to establish or join forces with a pure, powerful movement for spreading Krishna consciousness. Abhay made a list of several books he wanted to publish. 1. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Hindi, 2,000 pages. 2. Gitopanishad, English, 1,200 pages. 3. Science of Devotion, English, 300 pages. 4. Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan Movement, English, 300 pages. 5. Message of Godhead, English, 300 pages. 6. Bhagavad Katha, Bengali, 50 pages.
Okay, Shiv, go ahead. Oh,
But to print, he needed donors. He called on wealthy men in their offices and homes, presenting his manuscripts and explaining his mission. He had a list of donors, but few responded. And when he did receive a donation, it was usually only 5 or 10 rupees. Occasionally, he would receive a letter of appreciation or endorsement. One appreciation came from Narayan Das Rai Bahadur, a retired executive engineer and secretary of the Birla Mandir Trust, who had attended a public reading Abhay had held in the presence of a popular guru, Mother Anandamoyi. Impressed by Abhay's reading from his Hindi Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mother Anandamoyi had donated 50 rupees and suggested that Abhay also visit a well-known sadhu, Sri Hari Baba, who was lying ill in the hospital. accompanied by Narain Das, had visited Hari Baba, who had claimed that Abhay's reading put him into ecstasy. Meanwhile, Narain Das was becoming inclined to help, and in December he wrote a letter suggesting that everyone extend their helping hand for the successful publication of Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta various writings in Hindi, English, and Bengali. I wish him all success in his noble attempt. Abhay would show this and other such letters to prospective supporters. In Delhi, it was not difficult to see government ministers, judges, lawyers, business executives, religious heads. There was always someone willing to hear seriously, and occasionally to offer support. Thus, Abhay with the two dhotis and kurtas the Gaudiya Sangha had supplied him, with his ability to preach and convince, but with little support and no fixed residence, continued his preaching undaunted.
Writing and trying to publish was only half his effort. The other half was taking part in efforts for a world movement like the League of Devotees. Through Narain Das, Abhay inquired whether there might be a way he could do his work under the auspices of Birla Mandir, one of the largest and richest temples in Delhi. Abhay proposed that he be put in charge of propaganda in the English language, both within India and abroad. Since Narain Das considered himself a follower of Sanatan Dharma, Abhay wrote to him explaining how the teachings of Bhagavad Gita set forth the real Sanatan Dharma. Abhay had many ideas about how Sanatan Dharma, as the eternal religion for all living beings, could be expanded and practically applied if Narain Das would but help him. I want to train up 40 educated youths to learn the science of transcendental knowledge and just prepare them for going to foreign countries for missionary work. To start immediately on English paper or to revive my paper Back to Godhead in the style of Illustrated Weekly of India. To organize a Sankirtan party which shall not be only of good singers and musicians but also be used to practice sadhana or self-realization. Abhay promised that as soon as he had done some groundwork, he, along with his men and equipment, could start for foreign countries to propagate this missionary work. But he admitted also that he was externally in dire straits. Kindly do arrange for the above immediately and give me a proper place to live. I must remove from this temporary quarter by Monday next latest. The directors of the Birla Mandir did not take Abhay up on his offer, but he thought of another way of engaging them. He would hold a public meeting at the Birla Mandir to help generate interest in the League of Devotees. He approached Sri R.N. Agarwal, president of the Delhi Municipal Committee, who, after hearing the names of several respectable people who would be attending, Brajesh, can you scroll down a bit? Thank you. Agreed to preside over the meeting. Abhay set the date for December 22nd and printed 500 announcements and 200 invitation cards. Mayuri, Bishop, go ahead.
Striking a cosmopolitan note, he stated in his announcement, by the grace of the Almighty, Delhi is becoming the center of culture association of the world. The leaders of both Russia and India had recently pointed to the need of culture contact between all nations, but the highest culture, Abhay suggested, was scientific spiritual knowledge. Therefore, the best culture resources in the world existed in India, and these resources, Abhay stressed, should not be left to unorganized sadhus and sannyasis, but should be taken up by important members of the society in an organized way. The December 22nd. The December 22nd Hindustan time lists the meaning of League of the Devotees in today's arrangements. In today's engagements. Column, along with announcements for a meeting of the Rotary Club, the Tagore Society. the Indian Council of World Affairs, Bharat Scouts, and the Indian
Pharmaceutical.
Pharmaceutical Congress. The meeting began with the Kirtana led by Professor H. Chand and then A.C. Bhaktivedanta, the founder and secretary of the League of Devotees, explained his movement's objectives. Then Narayan Das spoke and afterwards read a number of proposed resolutions from the founder secretary, attesting that the persons present supported the League of Devotees and that they recommended that the central government of India also support it as a movement for world peace based on Gandhian principles. After adoption of the resolutions, the meeting closed with another Chaitanya and Prashad.
Abai was convinced that if his well-wishers and fellow humanitarians would support him on a grand scale, he could create a movement for world peace, based on the principles of devotional service to Lord Krishna. But his role was simply to present Krishna consciousness to whomever he could. The results were up to Krishna. Abai was aware that the good intentions of most of the participants in his Birla Mandir meeting would not go past that one meeting. But he wasn't discouraged. Through all his tireless evangelism, he maintained a philosophic jollity. In one sense, he was already fully satisfied. He was happy to be working on behalf of his spiritual master. Although he was changing addresses so fast that his mail could hardly catch up to him, he wrote a newspaper ad for a home study course. Educational. Study the spiritual secret of Bhagavad Gita at home by correspondence and be a strong man. Full course fee is 50 rupees only. The instruction is imparted not in the ordinary imaginative way of qualified interpretations, but in the parampara system of preceptorial succession. All questions are properly solved. Apply A.C. Bhaktivedanta. Students of all communities and nationalities are welcome. He had not published Back to Godhead in 4 years, since 1952, but he decided to revive it. Back to Godhead was a mission worthy, full of his attention, and it took all of his efforts to collect the funds, compose the articles, see to the printing, and then distribute 1,000 copies. The money he would raise by obtaining interviews and soliciting donations. One donor and friend was Justice Bipin Chandra Mishra, a Supreme Court judge in New Delhi.
Justice Mishra. He used to come to me once a month. I gave him donations for his paper. It was only a 4-page magazine, but it showed his study of the subject and his earnestness and his devotion to Lord Krishna. He appeared to be a very simple man and modest, and it was pleasant to talk to him. He had a smiling demeanor. The main thing was his humility. He could talk with affection and confidence, and he knew we were discussing things near to God. So every talk with him would sublimate us. I was a rather important personality at that time in religious affairs, but he would not be expected to make any contribution to the main religious life of Delhi at that time because of the language difficulty, because his aim was to reach the English-educated persons, not the Hindi ones. And also because his means and his popularity were not at all established, the magazine did not have a wide appeal among these people. Other religious leaders were all well established. The only thing that impressed one and was worth noticing at that time was the simplicity of his abiding faith in God's name and his mission. Writing articles was no problem. By the grace of his spiritual master, he was neither short of ideas nor unable to set them down. Translating and commenting on the Vaishnava scriptures, his pen flowed freely. He was inspired by the miracle of the press, the Brihat Mridanga, the work of writing his message down and printing it 1,000 times, with the awareness and urgency of speaking directly to everyone, not just people in Delhi or India, but everyone, put Abhay into an ecstatic meditation. He would contemplate how copies of Back to Godhead could reach thoughtful people who might read them gratefully.
Thank you, Manya. Arav for the close.
Nor was maintenance a problem. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami had declared that a devotee's problem was not food, clothing, or shelter. If one had no bed, he could always lie on the ground and use his arms for a pillow. For clothes, he could always find some rejected garments in the street. For food, he could live on fruits from the trees, and for lodging, he could stay in the mountain caves. Nature supplies all necessities. A transcendentalist should not flatter materialists to maintain himself. Of course, Abhay wasn't living in the mountains or jungle, but in the city of New Delhi. Yet he had virtually adopted the renounced mode Shukadeva had suggested, not to punish his body or prove himself pure and uncompromising, but because he had to live in poverty if he wanted to regularly produce back to Godhead. For Abhay, it was a great labor of love, and purchasing paper for printing became a priority even before eating. Neglecting his personal needs for preaching was a manifestation of his faith in Krishna, of which Abhay suffered no scarcity. He had full faith that if he served Krishna, he would be provided for. To work alone was not an insurmountable problem. It was pleasant and simple. It was better than having to manage the neophyte inmates of the Gaudiya Sangha. The ecstasy of working hard to serve a spiritual master was not a problem. The problem was the condition of the world. According to the Shastras, the current age, Kali Yuga, would create continual degradation in society. And Abhay could see this evidenced every day in Delhi. Delhi, formerly known as Hastinapura, had been the ancient capital of King Yudhishthira, who 5,000 years before, under the patronage of Lord Krishna, had been the most opulent king in the world, and whose citizens had been fully protected and provided for. Now, after 1,000 years of foreign subjugation, India was again independent, and New Delhi was the capital.
Thank you, Arav. Thank you, everyone else who read. Now we have 20 minutes left, so I'll hand it back to Maharaj for discussion.
I was particularly moved by the section where Prabhupada had gone for service, gotten the proprietorship over producing the magazine, and then in his enthusiasm, he had scared the local residents so much that they wrote him that obsequious sounding letter and then told him, yeah, no thanks. And as just an indication of Prabhupada's personality, that, as he said himself, he always thought big. And as soon as he got it, he wanted to expand it unlimitedly. And it was a relief to think of the whole history and how Prabhupada had been in that situation where he was boxed in and had limited resources to a time in which he could fully express what he wanted to do for his spiritual master. And the funds came in, and he had the help all around the world. Just how Krishna had provided all that so readily and seemingly quickly when he arrived is, well, a matter for the history books. And recently I was talking to somebody who was getting ready to reprint some of Prabhupada's books in another foreign country, and there was some debate about how many to print. And some of them were erring on the side of, well, let's just do a small print range. And during this reading, I had asked Raja Bhavana to copy that section and send it to me. So I just sent it off to them without comment because of the mood of it is so apparent. Prabhupada always thought, let's expand it. And he didn't go for the puny stuff. Did anybody else have any pointed reflections? Have any pointed reflections from that section? I mean, the section we just read in its entirety. Tunga Vidya.
Krishna Gurudev. I feel like when I was younger and learned more about Srila Prabhupada's life, I heard like the beginning stories of the Rath Yatra when he was 5, and then he met his Guru Maharaj, he was a Grihasta, and then there's like a blank space of 20 years, which you don't really hear about. And then it's like, oh, Srila Prabhupada was on the Jaladuta, and then he got to America, and then this explosion of Krishna consciousness. And so to read about what his life was like in those 20, 30 years, um, or 20, yeah, 10 or 20 years where he was alone trying to make the best of the circumstances he had, but also trying to fulfill his spiritual master's orders. Like a lot of times it's the success stories where we always focus on the success, but you don't see the hard work that went in the many years before that. So it at least like reading this, it gave me a deeper sense of appreciation for all the trouble that Srila Prabhupada went through that we don't really recognize unless we read this book.
Such a good point. Thank you for relating it from your perspective as hearing it as a kid. And it reminded me when you said that last part of a poster I saw in the airport in Bangkok when I was passing through. And it was it was a quote from a famous, I believe he's a footballer, Rossi, Mossy, something like that. And he said, I became an overnight success after 17 years. Like, everyone's famous, this, that. But, well, it was 17 years in the making before he actually got to that point of breaking through. Brajras Bhavana.
I often think whether if I wasn't born into the movement, would I actually become Krishna conscious? Like if someone had a book table or someone knocked on my door, would I actually be interested in it? And usually it's like probably not. I'd probably not open the door, or I'd go to the other side of the street. That's what I feel like I would probably do if I didn't know anything about it. But after seeing that ad by Prabhupada, if I saw that ad somewhere, I think I'd be very inclined to take a look at it. And it was just so interesting. He said, be a strong man. He didn't say like be like a peaceful man or a happy person. He's like strong man. And so it was a very I like the mood that he had with that.
God, I noticed that too. It's amazing. Yeah, really amazing. Thanks, Brajras Bhavana. Bhakta Arav.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So I feel like this related to the Bhagavad Gita verse that we were talking about earlier, 9.24, because Prabhupada was content even though he was not eating well, not staying in one place consistently. He was living in very like not a really good situation as people here would describe. But he was still so happy, as we could see. He was so ambitious. He was more. We need to print more books. I need to finish this translation, and this is just related to Krishna as the supreme enjoyer. He wants people to read and then become devotees, so eventually Krishna can enjoy their services and take them all back to Godhead. So Prabhupada was very advanced in this section.
It caught my ear also how the author mentioned that, but he was happy. And just thinking how real happiness, as you were just indicating, Arav, comes from being fully engaged in Krishna's service. You could be sleeping on the floor, but when you have that service, then you're joyful 24/7. And it mentioned in that context that he just wanted to serve his spiritual master's mission. Yeah, nice. Thank you very much. Chaitanya Nitai Nam, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. The other night, His Holiness Radha Maharaj gave a class here at Laguna Beach, and he was talking about, he quoted a poem written by Srila Prabhupada as part of a Vyasa Puja offering to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that says, it begins with, adore ye all, the happy day, blessed in heaven, sweeter than May because it was May 1st and he uh talked about how it was like that feeling of bhakti and everything that was sweeter than May. So I was thinking about, and during the class, Maharaj was doing this like just calculations of how Prabhupada in his lifetime, at that point when he wrote that poem, he was about 40 years old, and then apparently he thought it was gone for a long time, and that another devotee brought it up to him in 1976, which was 40 years after he had written that. So at that point, Prabhupada like had gone through so much more progress to like what Tungavidya's point, what she was saying about how we see all the progress that he had made in the span of those decades. It was just so like the difference between his lifestyle and like just the success of the movement that he was trying to start at the beginning and in 1930s and 1940s, and then how it exploded by 1976 at that point. So it was just really nice to see. And also I was just feeling like at this point in the modern day, the weather and the climate today is like May, it's still kind of weird on the opposite side of the spectrum where it's too cold. So I would still agree that his point of how the feeling of being in heaven, it's still sweeter than May.
Wow. Thank you very much, Chaitanya Nitai. No. Mayuri and Rishabh.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So I was thinking that whenever I was reading this, I was just thinking about how Srila Prabhupada, though he was facing so many hardships, he still had that one goal in mind to spread this Krishna consciousness and to follow his spiritual master's order. And even if it meant to sacrifice his own necessities and like basic needs like food, lodging, even like before he wanted to eat, he still wanted to consider whether he was using that money just like in Krishna service and for his Guru Maharaj. And even though his like seeing all of his letters and his like attempts and efforts like to persuade other people and trying to put funds in order to make like in order to print books, still he was so positive and he wasn't really deterred by all of this negativity, and he wasn't thinking that he couldn't do this. He was very confident.
Well spoken. Was that Mayuri or Rishabh Dev who said that? I can't tell because who can't see you.
Mayuri.
That was Mayuri? Articulated nicely.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. He said he wasn't deterred. Yeah. Why do you think he wasn't deterred?
Because he knew that Krishna would still, in all of his efforts, he knew that Krishna was the one who he was really trying to please, and that it didn't matter if like nobody on like here was like seeing his efforts, but as long as Krishna saw.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Thank you very much. Brajaras Bhavana.
I want to add a few more points from the reading that I was reflecting on. One was his Back to Goddard articles, and I love what that Judge Mishra said about Prabhupada and his articles and how it was so simple. And we've been reading some of the old articles of the Back to Goddard and been going on to breakout rooms, and they're like 4 or 5 paragraphs, but they're so relevant even right now, and it's super straightforward, and it just breaks down some kind of phenomena in the material world, and then Prabhupada just put the spin on it in a very spiritual light, and it just quickly you get the entire picture of it. But it's so simply written that there's no language that's around it that is where it's beating around the bush or anything like that. It's just very direct, um, but it's very touching. So I related to what he felt when he met Prabhupada as well, where his demeanor and his language was very simple, and that's what attracted him and many others. The second point I had was it's so interesting to see how the struggles of Prabhupada formed the way he developed ISKCON and his movement, because he noticed things that he didn't like, and then he made sure that they didn't happen when he did his own thing. And I think at least in this regard, you mentioned the book thing where we don't want to, he doesn't want to think puny. He wants to think big all the time. And even like the seven, I believe the mission statement of ISKCON, um, they really relate to these experiences, and we can see where they come from. Like he saw things fail, he saw what worked, he saw what didn't work, and it was a very calculated effort in order to succeed. And so it's just very interesting, kind of get an understanding of why Prabhupada made his choices in the future.
Wow. Yeah, very telling in that way. It's almost a relief knowing how it turned out and seeing how he had the free hand. Same point I made earlier, but it's poignant. Okay. Anybody else? I suggest, yeah, Akshara Nitai, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. The whole time I was thinking of this concept of, well, it kind of comes from your phrase of book distribution's high sadhana. And Srila Prabhupada, aside from his own sadhana, was just completely meditating upon how how a statement of his spiritual master would manifest. And although it took so much effort and then it seemed as if there was not much result coming, because he was engaged completely and he was fully convinced, when it came, it was no surprise. It was like, okay, this is just what's expected. And I was kind of relating that kind of back to my like chanting or anything else per se. That if I'm fully convinced myself, then I'll be able to at some point completely understand. At some point, when Krishna decides, or when the situation is right, when I've raised myself up to a position where I can take advantage of the practice that I have, everything will come of its own accord. Krishna says, "Asamshayam samagram amitangyasi tashrunu," that if you're able to understand without any doubt, then you'll be able to know me. So yeah, Prabhupada had no doubts, and that's kind of what I feel like is the biggest thing, is like he was completely fearless, and even though he was just alone, he was able to just continue on with his own thing. And I don't know, it's just kind of inspiring seeing him personally see the whole world kind of go to hell. In his own description, how Delhi has gone completely wayside, and his take on how there's still a simple process in which we can come back and then access. Anyways, I'm going kind of off track, but yeah, Prabhupada was completely fearless, and everything manifested from that fearlessness.
Yeah, when you have that firm conviction, you mentioned it's not a surprise when it comes, and then also that's it's the powerful mindset, knowing that Krishna wants it done and you're being an instrument. I'm writing a sequel to our family business, and it's called Assume It Can Be Done. And I found this as important fodder for showing a contrast in mindsets. One mindset is, oh, we don't have enough money, and we don't do too much. And here are all the reasons why it can't be done. But Prabhupada had that mood that you're expressing, Aksharanitai, that obviously can be done because it's Lord Chaitanya's power, and therefore assume it can be done, and then act on that basis. Tunga Vidya.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I was thinking about, it's kind of a reflection that shifts into a question. So the reflection is about, there's a verse I've heard from the Srimad Bhagavatam which talks about how when Krishna especially favors someone, he takes away everything that they have. And so I was thinking about Srila Prabhupada's life story is somewhat quite a great example of that, because it's like his family and his business. And then even in this particular reading, we were learning that he didn't even have like a proper dhoti. And so sometimes I was thinking, ever since I've heard this verse, I've thought about like, why would Krishna do that to someone? And then I was remembering the verse from Kunti Maharani's prayers about it's Vipada Shantuta Shashvat Tatatata Jagat Guru. I don't remember the rest of the verse right now, but I do know that the verse talks about Apunar Bhavadashanam. So that one specifically talks about how as more calamities, like she's essentially asking Krishna for more calamities because that allows her to remember him or gives her more opportunities to remember the Lord. And so I was thinking about how when you come across a very distressing situation, it really makes you lean into your ideals and what you fight for, because that's like the one thing that can't be taken away from you. It's what you have. Then they talk about like how knowledge is the thing you can't take away from you, but like the ideals and the beliefs you hold true to yourself, they can't take that away from you. And so I know for myself, it's like I know these things, but sometimes when situations and circumstances get especially hard, it's hard to remember that Krishna is doing this for my benefit, or this is an opportunity to remember the Lord. So, how do I make sure that I'm doing that when I do get these sort of negative or really trying circumstances in my life?
Just reread this part of the Lilamrita. And it's always helpful to have associates, peers, or somebody in your upline that can give you some perspective about how you're doing. It's hard for us to see ourselves how we're doing, and especially for high achievers, it always feels like we're not doing. I can't include myself because I'm not high achiever. For those like all of you who are higher achievers, it may seem that you're not doing enough. So having somebody who can look in on you and say, "Oh no, you're doing great," and have that encouragement at times when you feel down is very important on the progressive path in any discipline, as I like to say, because as you move forward, you have to have coaching and you have to have, and that includes encouragement, somebody give you that perspective that you're making progress. So those are things that's something that I do regularly, is take help from God brothers and sisters and others who are well-wishers to give me perspective and feedback and so forth, and it's very helpful. So also remember that the simplest of services, Krishna appreciates the simplest of gestures and services that you do for him. So though we may think big and so forth, Prabhupada always just considered how to stay engaged. For instance, in the story about Bombay and the development of the Juhu temple that Giriraj Maharaj wrote about, there's a point of time in which Mr. Nair had already begun to execute his plan to steal the money by accepting the down payment, but then not making the permit available so that they could build the temple. And when that looked like it was when that was looming, Prabhupada said, "That's all right. We'll just use this property as a bus stop, and we'll have buses that go out all day long into Bombay and do Sankirtan, and then they could stop off here. We'll give them prasadam." He had that warrior spirit that, okay, all right, if this is the way it's going to be, then we'll turn it into this. I mean, how do you go from a luxury guest house and magnificent temple into a bus stop? Because whatever it is, KTTBG, keep the transcendental vibration going, somehow move forward. And it's also helpful to look back and watch how things have unfolded in your life and see how Krishna's hand is in it. Well, this has been an especially pleasant session all the way through. Such good readings today and the examination of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm sure Prabhupada would be pleased to see all of you so absorbed and articulate and knowledgeable of the scripture. I noticed in one of the sections he wanted 40 students. I think he said 40. He wanted to train them and send them out. In fact, I put a little thing up here. Let's see who I got. Here, who here would like to go to a foreign country for missionary work? Because Prabhupada had said that. he wanted to train up 40 young people, send them out for missionary work. So let's see who we got here. We have Arav wants to go, Manhar wants to go, Brajras Bhavana, Kapil's going to go, Chaitanya Nitai Nam, Akshara Nitai. Manhar's going twice. We'll send you to 2 countries. Tunga Vidya and Manya are all going on the foreign tour to preach. That'd be really an ecstatic mission, wouldn't it? Yeah, the whole world's open and available, so it's nice to get trained up as much as possible and then start something that will help expand the movement. Thank you very much, Brajras Bhavana and Tunga Vidya, for conducting the meeting. Thanks everybody from joining from various places. And I'll end with a prayer. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Kishore Kishori. Anyone else? If you so desire. Please bless everyone who joined Youth Jam today, those who slept through it, those who forgot to sign on, those who meant to join but have the other work to do, like homework, that they may always remember Srila Prabhupada's pioneering days, take inspiration from those, and become great pioneers themselves in various parts of the world to spread the Krishna consciousness movement, which is the panacea for the suffering condition of the world. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Panchakalpavishcha Kripasinabheva Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Anantakoti Vaishnavi Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Jai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Haribol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for